Instagram or the other?
It looks just like Instagram.
So that you can't tell.
No, you can't tell the difference unless you open it. And then it'll take you, and there are many vaults. There's many vaults that kids can download on their phone to hide things that they don't want you to know. Legitimate prescription opioid use before high school graduation is associated with a 33% increase in the risk of future opioid misuse after high school. And we still prescribe these medications to kids without even thinking about it. In 2014, I-Stop regulation went into effect. Are you all familiar with what that is? No? Okay. So prior to, I'm going to take it back really fast. 1990s, government put a big push on pain management. They wanted to introduce drugs into our community to address the needs of people that suffered with severe and moderate pain. Prior to the 1990s, you could only get medications this potent in a hospital setting, drugs like fentanyl, morphine, Dilaudid, Opana. Well, the 1990s changed that, and drugs like hydrocodone, Vicodin, and Lortab were introduced into our community as what they classified as Schedule III narcotic, which meant instead of having to go to the hospital and get these medications, you could now get them in a doctor's office, one prescription up to 240 pills with 5 refills. These drugs started to be prescribed for tooth extractions, lower back pain, sprained ankles, sprained wrists. They were writing prescriptions all over. And if you guys think about it, you probably have heard somewhere in the last 10 years about all the doctors that were shut down because they had lines of people outside. West Virginia wrote more prescriptions in a month than they had residents. So this exploded in our country. And the DEA approached the FDA and said, we see a huge problem here. You should never have classified hydrocodone as a Schedule III narcotic. It's causing a massive death rate, an overdose death rate. It should be classified as a Schedule II, which is your more restricted narcotics. You can only get one prescription, very regulated. They chose to ignore that warning and business went on as usual. In 2013, a man from Western New York out of Israel, he lost his son Michael to a suicide because Michael was addicted to hydrocodone that he was prescribed for Crohn's disease. He started to fight because he couldn't get his son help, and his son ultimately took his life. And he became a huge champion for Western New York. I worked alongside him, and the DEA approached him and said, we want you to help us reclassify hydrocodone. We lost in the late 1990s, but we're going to try again. So Avi Israel championed alongside the DEA and testified in front of the FDA as the dangers of hydrocodone being classified as a Schedule III narcotic and won. 29 to 11, they voted to reschedule hydrocodone. This was 20 years later. You had millions of people handcuffed to this drug. When they reclassified hydrocodone, it tightened up and drew back all those prescriptions. People could no longer get those prescriptions, but they were addicted to it. So what did they do? They turned to the cheaper, readily available version, which was heroin. I-Stop regulation went into effect that said you could no longer doctor shop. You see one doctor, he writes your prescription, it goes in a real-time database. No more going to East Aurora for one script and then DePue for another and Batavia for another and filling these prescriptions all over. So you had all these people who were addicted to opiate narcotics that could no longer get them. That started the epidemic. We had 20 years of overprescribing, tighten those regulations up. Heroin and fentanyl reared its ugly head in our communities, and we have been in trouble ever since. People often share their unused pain relievers, unaware of the dangers of non-medical opioid use. Most adolescents who misuse prescription pain relievers are given them by a friend or a relative. We have set up a perception in our society that says if it comes from someone you know, it's safer. We do that with our own kids. We give our kids medicine and say, here, this will make you feel better. We take them to the doctor says, here, this will make you feel better. And then Joe finds these medicines in his mom's medicine cabinet and takes them to school and says, hey, these are my mom's from the doctor. Try one, it'll make you feel real good. And the kids, my friend wouldn't hurt me, only trying to help me, only trying to show me a good time. That's how this starts. We have set up perceptions that if it comes from someone we know, it's safer. Overdose deaths due to opioids have increased 500% among 15 to 24-year-olds since 1999. Treat pain cautiously. Adolescents often are initially exposed to opioids through prescriptions or a friend or a relative who gives it to them. 4 in 5 new heroin users start out by misusing prescription painkillers. The good news is that for the last, since 2014, almost 10 years, we've been working very hard in our country and in Western New York to get a handle on this epidemic. We've started training in Narcan. We work in schools. Erie County has the most effective form of reporting than any place else in the country. And other states come to us to ask for guidance. The Erie County Opiate Task Force has brought prevention providers, treatment providers, law enforcement, school, hospitals, everyone together to figure out how to tackle this epidemic. And we were doing amazing until COVID. COVID changed everything. It took away what people in recovery need most, and that is the one-on-one contact. The mental health that comes from substance use is just as debilitating as the disease itself. Just as the opiate epidemic has gained the full attention of the medical and law enforcement communities, we see a new drug emerging, and that's benzodiazepines. Benzodiazepines are drugs like Xanax. They're usually treated for anxiety, very widely used among the adolescent population, very addictive. Kids use them in bars. They are among the most commonly prescribed depressant medications in the United States today and treat an array of both psychological and physical ailments. Teenage benzodiazepine addiction is a very serious problem that's getting worse and worse. Many thousands of teenagers are struggling with dependence to drugs such as Xanax, Ativan, and Librium. Synthetic liquid benzodiazepines are easily accessible on the dark web. We see that more and more and more, that these kids are ordering them through the mail and they're being delivered right to their house. 49% of teens are estimated to take Xanax with alcohol to enhance the effects. Xanax, even if used correctly, will lead to dependence. It's like an opioid. There's no in between. There is use as prescribed, dependent, or addicted. More than 30% of overdoses involving opioids also involve benzodiazepine. Many people combination drug use. These are some of the street names, and it was important for me to put this in here because I can't tell you how many times I talk to parents that say, my child is smoking marijuana. And the more that we talk and talk about the behaviors and the changes they're seeing and what is happening, the more often we'll come up with these slang terms. Whoops, I didn't know that was a touch screen. These slang, where did it go now? I went back too far. These slang terms in their phones. Footballs, handlebars, ladders, school buses, all slang terms for Xanax use. And these kids use these terms in an effort to unsuspecting parents. All teenagers are going to be withdrawn and moody, but a significant change in their behavior can be a telltale sign of drug misuse. I will tell you that prescription drug use does not present like anything we've ever seen before. People, both adolescent and adult, can function for long periods of time, academically, scholastically, and employment. The drugs, enhance their normal behaviors. And some of them, actually feel like they can accomplish anything. Kids on the sports field will use it to enhance their sports abilities. But what happens is over time, the tolerance starts to grow. They need more and more and more of the drug to achieve the same results. And the drugs are expensive. They run out. So as their body starts to go through withdrawal, that's when you see the changes. With Xanax and other benzos, they may be sleeping more. I have parents telling me all the time their cycles of sleep totally reverse. This is not about good or bad kids, it's about the pills. They can get these pills from anybody. And again, the perceptions are set up in our community that if they're prescription, if they're coming from somebody they know, they're safer. Kids go to parties. They're on the front lines of this epidemic. They need to know what the signs and the warning signs are. They go to these parties. Have any of you heard of Skittles parties? They tell their friends, get the pills out of the medicine cabinet, bring the pills. They pour the pills in a bowl and as kids go in, they take pills out of the bowl. They don't know what they have. And I want you to imagine, go back to your teenage years. You know, be the cheerleader who likes the football star who's on a prescription for opioids because he sprained his arm. And he's liking how it makes him feel. 20% of the young adult population will experience euphoric feeling when they take that medication. There's a percentage of the population that will take that medication and get sick. Any of you like that? Can't take an opioid because it gives you an upset stomach? And there's a percentage of the population that will take the medication as prescribed, as needed for breakthrough pain, put it in the medicine cabinet, and never take it again. The problem is you don't know what part of the population you are until it's too late. And that girl who likes that boy so much that puts her hand in the bowl the first time and takes that pill out could be opening a door that she just can't come back through, or he can't come back through. Because for some kids, it's once, just once. I'm going to take that pill, I'm going to like how it makes me feel, and I'm going to want to do it again. And that is going to start a cycle that is going to change their life and the life of their family forever. Because make no mistake, addiction is a family disease. It affects the whole family. These are some of the signs: blackouts, depression, mood swings, headaches, aggression, blurred vision, muscle cramps, nausea, diarrhea, poor job or academic performance. Sometimes when you're noticing differences in your kids, you have to really question what they are. A change of friends, not eating at the dinner table anymore, disheveled, not taking care of their hygiene so much. Even though sometimes they can look like normal growing pains or maybe depression, sometimes they can be a sign of substance use. And mental health and substance use disorder can go hand in hand. Be very aware that sometimes not being aware of the drug use and treating mental health with alcohol thing can exacerbate underlying conditions. The last thing you want to do is prescribe somebody who is struggling with substance use disorder more controlled substances. And we see a lot of that with people taking their loved ones to doctors thinking that it's mental health, not realizing that there is a substance use disorder as well. Dextromethorphan, how many of you have heard of this? Huge, huge. And this was how my son got started. Dextromethorphan is an over-the-counter cough medicine. It is also an opioid derivative and attacks the same receptors as opioids. Many people, young people especially, who abuse dextromethorphan in their teen years will start to abuse opioids later in life. It's a dissociative anesthetic. It mimics the effects of drugs like PCP and ketamine. Street names: Skittles, Black Beauties, Brownies, Dexies, Dextro. There is a whole list of them. DXM has the potential to be addictive if taken in large doses or administered via an alternate method, such as snorting or injecting. Kids will robotrip. How many of you have heard of that? Robotripping. They'll take 8 to 16 Xanax at one time to achieve these effects. Users may also begin to obsessively crave them. Some users will drink cough syrup with dextromethorphan in combination with alcohol or in the absence of the availability of alcohol and to enhance. Dextromethorphan, a cough suppressant, can be found in over-the-counter medications including Alka-Seltzer Plus, cold and cough medicine, Coricidin, cough, cold tablets, Dimetapp, Robitussin. I mean, there's over 100 different ones. Very, very widely abused. According to the Dawn Drug Warning Network's Dawn report, persons between the ages of 12 and 20 years old account for more than half of the emergency room visits for non-medical use of dextromethorphan. A national survey on drug use and health states that in 2006, 3.1 million Americans between the ages of 12 and 25 years old had ingested cough and cold medicine recreationally. Typically, someone who's been using dextromethorphan long-term and suddenly quits will experience the same withdrawal symptoms that opiate addiction, including fatigue, gastrointestinal distress, vomiting, diarrhea, insomnia, nightmares. It's estimated that 1 in 11 teens abuse cough medicine or other over-the-counter medications. It's important also to note that used as prescribed is safe, but it is very widely abused by adolescents. It's so easily accessible and a big target in high schools. Physical signs and symptoms, euphoria, blotchy skin, depression. Again, a lot of these things can look like simple changes in, going from adolescent to teens as you grow. But the lifestyle or social changes, the change in appearance, eating patterns, sleeping patterns, those are all things to be aware of, to be concerned about. I know, I think we've changed, we've evolved as we've gone through life being parents, wanting to give our kids more independence and more freedom and more space, let them make their own mistakes. And I respect that, but also seeing what I see in today's world, I think as parents, we need to go back to being little detectives. We need to know where our kids are and what they're doing. We need to know who they're spending time with on the phone. We need to know what's happening in their life, because it's not like making a mistake that you're just going to recover from. This is a mistake that changes lives forever. And it is a mistake that could cause death. Addiction is a progressive and fatal disease. If left untreated, it will progress just like cancer. Early intervention gives people their best chance at long-term recovery. If you wait to treat cancer into the 4 stages, your likelihood of long-term success diminishes. And it's the same thing with addiction. We have an opportunity to intervene when these kids are young and hold them accountable. We have control, right? We have more control in teenage years than we will ever have again. And we need to take back that control and be aware that it's not kids that have changed. It's the world that they're growing up in. Alcohol continues and probably always will be the #1 substance of choice. Drinking is more harmful to teens than adults because their brains are still developing throughout adolescence and well into young adulthood. Drinking during this critical growth period can lead to lifelong damage in brain function. It also makes them more vulnerable to bad decision making. And 20 years ago, heroin was not floating around our communities like pencils and papers, but it is today. It is found in every community, every medicine cabinet, every church, every home, every school. Alcohol, again, designed to attract the adolescent eye. Fancy labels, designer alcohol. It is 10 to 20% alcohol by volume. It's not grandma's no-name beer. This stuff is very potent, and kids drink to get drunk. It makes them more vulnerable to bad decision making. According to research, young people who begin drinking before the age of 15 are 4 times more likely to develop alcohol dependence than those who begin drinking at age 21. Again, because of brain development. We are never going to be able to keep our kids safe from everything, but we need to change the perception that if my kid drinks at home, it's better because they're at home. Or I'm going to let them have a beer, at this time. This is a dangerous world, and all these things open them up to more risk. The higher alcohol content in drinks today also increase the risk. A Monitoring the Future study, an annual survey of U.S. youth found that 3/4 of 12th graders, more than 2/3 of 10th graders, and about 2 in every 5 8th graders have consumed alcohol. The average age of first use for alcohol is about 14, compared to 17 and a half in 1965. Although the purchase of alcohol by persons under 21 is illegal, people aged 12 to 20 drink 11% of all alcohol consumed in the United States. More than 90% of this alcohol is consumed in the form of binge drinks. By the age of 15, about 33% of teens have had at least one drink, and by the age of 18, about 60% of teens. Alcohol today, again, designer. The labels are used to draw the attention of the young adult population and can have an alcoholic content of 10 to 17%, compared to 20 years ago when it was 3 to 5%. I know that there's very, very mixed reviews when we talk about underage drinking. You know, our kids can serve for our country at 18, but they can't have a beer. And we're never going to totally be able to stop this, but I think the longer we can keep our kids safe, we can send that message that it's illegal, it's not allowed, and it's not acceptable, the better chance we have of keeping them safe from the other influences that are out there. And these influences, again, they're deadly. They can change the life of your child forever. Youth who drink alcohol are more likely to experience school problems, social problems, legal problems, physical problems, unwanted and unplanned, unprotected sexual activity. They're a higher risk for suicide, alcohol-related car crashes, memory problems. We just lost those 3 kids in that accident with that vehicle on the 33. You know, none of us want to believe that it can happen to us, but it can. It can happen to any one of us. Tomorrow is not promised to any of us. It's just marijuana, or is it? Dabbing. How many of you know what dabbing is? Nope. No, you can't read it and then answer. Dabbing is probably the most popular thing we see among teens today, and it is causing major problems. I will say health problems in an effort to kind of classify it. Health problems as far as the lungs. We have kids on ventilators. We have kids developing popcorn lung. We have kids that are becoming addicted to THC at a very young age. It is what many people compare to marijuana, but it is not marijuana. It is concentrated doses of cannabis that are made by extracting the THC and other cannabinoids using a solvent like butane or carbon dioxide, resulting in sticky oils, also referred to as wax, shattered butter, butane ash. It is splitting the THC from the marijuana. Kids drop it into their vape devices, and they vape pure forms of THC all day long. It's estimated that 60% of kids who are vaping today are also vaping THC. Parents can't tell because there's no smell. Law enforcement can't tell, although now with the systems and the testing, we have better reporting. But for years, it was going undetected because there was no way to tell. It was in the vape devices. What you do see is behavior changes in your child. Now, alcohol is a slow-growing addiction, we'll say. Marijuana, also a slower-growing addiction, which means it takes time. It plateaus at different levels. But make no mistake that they're all addictive. They all lead to the same place. And again, if your child is using substances that are 50 to 100 times more potent than they were 20 years ago, it makes sense that they're also more vulnerable to bad decision making. This is a very dangerous trend. It's estimated that 3 million youth are vaping, 30 to 40% of whom are vaping marijuana. Marijuana usage is associated with a greater risk for testicular cancer in males. Marijuana is a gateway drug. I don't care what anyone says. Marijuana is a gateway drug. Is it gonna be a gateway drug for everybody? No, it's not. Is everybody who smokes marijuana gonna become addicted? No. Is everybody who drinks alcohol gonna become addicted? No. But how do you know who is? There is no test you can take. There's no check the boxes. You don't know until it's too late. And when it's too late, there is no going back. You can't say, I woulda, shoulda, coulda. And in my profession, I not only heard my son say that to me numerous times, but kids I deal with every day say, I wish I could go back to that day and just say no. Because I can't break free from this life. I can't break free from this lifestyle. I can't break free from this drug that controls my every waking moment. That's no way to live. The number of marijuana-related emergency room visits for adolescents 15 to 17 years old was 61% higher in 2011 than in 2005. Visits among males increased 65%, while females increased 53%. So, in closing, what can I do? Well, you can be aware of changes in your child, changes in their friends, isolation, family involvement, stealing, lying. These are all behaviors that could indicate some underlying drug use going on. Intervene early. The longer you wait, the harder it is. I know for family members, nobody likes to think that this is a path that somebody is going to take. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, this is the path I'm going to choose. For kids, it starts out as fun. You know, I like the way this makes me feel. Everybody's doing it. You know, I'm going to have a good time. They are living in the moment. They're not seeing what I'm seeing 5 years later. These kids will end up in treatment programs 5 years from now if they're still alive, or maybe on the street. But there is no good outcome from consistent drug use. Substance use disorder is about both the substance and the behaviors. If the substance stops, but the behaviors continues, use will likely start again. Example, getting grounded, but continuing to hang around with the same friends. I'm grounded because I got caught smoking marijuana. I'm going to serve my 5-day sentence, but then I'm going to go back and hang out with the same friends. The same behaviors are going to continue. That's one of the reasons why recovery is so hard for this adolescent population, because we know what has to happen is a change of people, places, and things. How hard is it for an adult? Now look at a kid. How do you change the people, places, and things? It's up to parents to be parents, to really take a proactive approach to helping their child overcome the things they need to get back on track. Because I'll tell you, you don't want your child to take this route. It's a horrible, horrible life for somebody who struggles with addiction to be handcuffed to a substance that controls every decision that they make. Don't become defensive. A teacher approaches you, law enforcement approaches you, don't become defensive. We as treatment and prevention providers, we're seeing what's happening. We're on the front lines of this epidemic. We know firsthand, and we're doing everything we can to help and educate. If somebody approaches you and says, I'm concerned about your child, I'm concerned that the behaviors, that there's substance use going on, take a proactive approach. Do what you can to slow down. You will never have as much power as you do today. Do what you can to intervene and slow down the progression of that behavior and that use, because you may be able to pull them out of it. Remember that kids haven't changed. It's the world they're growing up in that has. And we all need to be very aware of that. Attend forums like this when your school is offering forums for you to come in and learn about what's happening, what the trends are that we're seeing. Take advantage of it. No parent gets a manual on how to support somebody who struggles with substance use disorder. I wish I did. I wish they would have had something, but they don't. You need to be proactive. You need to know that you're growing up in a different day and age, and it's a very, very dangerous time for adolescents in today's world. But I really have faith that as, you know, a community, if we all pull together through this, we can educate these kids to make better choices, and they can change the world for a better tomorrow. So thank you very much. These are the resources. If any of you want to take any of the resources down, I can send you the presentation where you can do your own research and pull some of the information up. And then this is my contact information. Again, I'm a parent and family support coordinator. I work to help families navigate the path to appropriate treatment and services for their loved ones. My phone is always on. I am available. As a parent, I know what it's like to be in crisis and not have anybody answer their phone. My phone is always on. I'm available to help whoever needs it. I also text message, and as a parent, I'm going to tell you, don't wait. If you have concerns or questions, you're concerned about behaviors you've seen, talk to somebody, talk it through, because you may find out some information that you really don't want to know, but it could be the start of change to a better life. So thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. Any questions? A lot of information in a short period.
It was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, really. You do a great job.
Thank you.